And now we're doing the closure diamond problems, 1-66. All right, so diamond problems, I'll teach you a few tricks for doing diamond problems. So for instance, with A is interesting because you are given the product, and a product is the result of multiplication. So that's something times something else, all right? And then down here, you are also given the sum. And the sum is always something plus something else, all right? Okay, so that's a difference. The top is a product, so you have to multiply things. The bottom is a sum, so you have to add two things together to get to that. So there are lots of different combinations for addition. We could start out with 1 plus 5, 2 plus 4, 3 plus 3. So there are a lot of different combinations for addition. But for multiplication, there are a limited number of options. So we know that the options for this one are either 1 times 8 or 2 times 4, and that's pretty much it. That's it. I mean, we could do them backwards, but that's all. And so it's a good idea when you're given the top and the bottom to figure out what the options are for the top first. Because once you've done that, all you have to do is check and see, well, can I add these two together and get 6? 1 and 8. Even if I use like a -1 and add these together, I would get 7. I wouldn't get 6. And so the only option for adding things together and getting 6 is 2 and 4. So we know, since both of these are positive, we can just say +2 and +4 go in there. Okay, so for B, that's pretty easy because all you have to do is just multiply these together and put it there, add them together and put the answer there. All right, so C, that one's a little trickier. So let's take a look at C. So C, you are given what the product is, which is -28. And then you're given one of the numbers that you have to multiply to get -28. So you know that if you multiply a positive number times a negative number, you will get a negative number. So we know that whatever this number is here, it has to be a negative number because we have a positive number over here. So what can we multiply 4 by to get 28? Well, if we can think of that number, that's great. But if we can't think of the number, then we can always divide 4 into 28. So if we divide 4 into 28, 4 goes into 28 7 times. And so now we know that the number over here is going to be 7, and we know it has to be a -7. And then at this point, it's easy to figure out what this number is, because if we add these two numbers together, we get a -3. Okay, and I'm trying to see if there's anything else that's tricky. Well, there is D. D's a little bit tricky because we only get the sum, which is -4, and then we get -1. Well, I guess this is not so tricky because what do we have to add to -4 or to -1 to get -4? Well, that's pretty easy. Another negative number. We have to go further in the negative direction to get to -4. If we start out at -1, then we've got to go 3 more negative to get to -4 on a number line. And then once we have these, we know that 3 times 1 is going to be 3. And because a negative times a negative is a positive, we know this is just 3. All right, and then, well, E, sometimes we have forgotten how to do our multiplying and adding decimals. So let's take a look at this one. 3.25. And then we've got just a 4 over here. All right. So when you're adding decimals, you line up the decimal points. So 3.24, and then we would line up, this is a 4, so we'd put the point there and maybe a 0. And then we lined everything up and we just add it. But when you're multiplying with decimal points, so we'll set that up over here, 3.24 times 4. When you're doing that, you don't have to line up the decimal points. What you have to do is count decimal points once you've set this up. So we know we've got 2 digits behind the decimal point here. So I'm going to put a 2 over here. And then with the 4, we have 0 behind a decimal point. So now let's do the multiplication. 4 times 4 is 16. Carry the 1. That's 8. Plus 1 is 9. 3 times 4 is 12. All right, so now we have our answer, and we add up the number of digits behind the decimal point. So we only have 2 in our answer. So we just count from the back. 1, 2 places. So we're counting place values until we get to 2. So it's 12.96. And that's what goes up here. And then, of course, down here where we added, it's 7.24. All right. The rest you can probably do yourself.